And folks, we are back at MACO 2024. What an amazing couple days down here. So many great people. And I'm with my co-host, Beth Ann Dorman, the CEO of For All Seasons. So much fun today.
It's been so much fun to be here and just to be able to start another day off with such great people and just being in the energy that MACO creates is just wonderful.
I call this Super Bowl Sunday today because we got the rock stars today. I went to bed extra early last night because we got a celebrity on right now. This guy is doing some great things. I met him about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I said, hey, I really want your CEO or you to come on the show. And I was at CIAA basketball tournament. And from then, we just had a good relationship from there. And I can say CareFirst has been really a great partner, has helped NoPixAfterDark out, had a great interview. So thank you for CareFirst and what they do. Lester Davis, the CareFirst VP, Chief of Staff to the CEO. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm here with you too, so I'm doing fantastic.
Hey, I gotta give you the flowers because we got our people are here. Gotta give the flowers.
You're the kickoff for the day. No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure.
There's no pressure at all.
Like you said, it's a Super Bowl. So
It is.
Super Bowl Sunday, so we're starting out with you.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
So thank you for coming down to MACO, hanging out. What do you think about MACO? Like, is your first time in MACO, or?
No, historically, so I spent about a decade in municipal government and headed up government affairs for Baltimore City. And so MACO is like, it's a homecoming. You see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of old friends. You make new friends. So I love the energy here.
Gotcha. I know, Beth Ann, when we found out you were coming down, we were so excited.
So excited.
Talk about the tie-in real quick.
Yeah, so CareFirst has been such an important partner for our agency as we've grown as the largest behavioral health and rape crisis center on the Eastern Shore. It is in large part to partnerships, and one of the partnerships that's been really critical, and we were talking before we went on the air, just about the funding that you allowed us to purchase our electronic health record and how that really changed the way we delivered services. And one of the things that you and I talked about, and I think is so important for us to touch on, is how innovative partnerships can really move and fill pockets in the community.
That's right. And they're needed. I mean, when you're talking about the mental and behavioral state of our country right now in our region, the speed is something that we're cognizant of. When someone is experiencing something and they need to see someone, you can't wait. Literally minutes are critical. And so to the extent that we can work with partners like your organization to be able to scale that, to get folks the help when they need it, is critical. I had a conversation with a relative, a family member, not that long ago, and historically not someone that would have wanted to seek treatment and go and get those supports, but was in a space where they were open to it and couldn't get seen. They live in another state, couldn't get seen, and they missed that window. And they were no longer willing to participate and to get the help that they needed. And so it really is a matter of critical importance and in some instances a matter of life or death for people.
And that really speaks to the program that we've instituted on the Eastern Shore of open access, where it's 5 days a week, it's walk-in services. It took us 2 years of really completely shifting our model of delivery, but you walk in, there's no wait list, you're connected with your therapist, because that critical moment, it just is so spot on for when someone needs help. We have to be able to give the help.
Absolutely.
And it's really for us about beyond the help in the office. And that's where CareFirst has come in and just been so amazing for us, because we recognize that telehealth is important because somebody might not be able to get to the office. We recognize, and you all have helped us to sponsor things in the community. You were wonderful about coming alongside of us for our pickleball tournament. You don't necessarily think about pickleball, and Aaron was there with us. We had such a great time. You don't think about pickleball and mental health, but it's like a conduit to a conversation for people like your family members, my family members, and the community who might not say, oh, mental health is exactly what I want to be talking about.
That's right.
So what does mental health mean to you? What is that? I mean, I know when I was growing up, as an African-American male family, go walk it off. Go talk to somebody. But for you, what does that mean to you? And then as a broader scope, CareFirst.
Yeah, you're so right, Aaron. And it's meeting people where they are. We've made tremendous strides in mental health awareness, behavioral health awareness, particularly post-pandemic. But there's so much more to do, and you can't take the stigmas that have been built up over literally the course of human history and just wipe them out completely. in a couple years. But we're working and we're trying. We want to say to folks that your mental health, it does look like intensive therapy. It does look like pickleball. It does look like meditation. It looks like anything that you can imagine that's going to give you the space to be in conversation with someone and kind of working through and cycling through what you need to get your mental health back in order and maintained and in check. And so it's a conversation that we're in continuously, and we still have a lot of work to do. But with great partners, we can get there, and we're making good progress.
What I love about that is that it really brings to light that it isn't just a simple conversation. These are complex things, but so important. You know, we have to bring in culture. We have to bring in how people have been raised. You bring in intergenerational trauma. You bring in the ways that families have sort of cycled through. We're going to be really looking at things in an in-depth lens, and also coming to the table with no judgment is so critical in all of these moments. And that's the piece where, you know, CareFirst, I know as you're expanding and you're trying to say, like, we're here as a community partner, we're so excited about the possibilities for our partnership and how we can show up collectively so that it isn't just we're over here and you're over there.
And we're just getting started. And I think part of the thing that we recognize is this is not a one-size-fits-all approach.
No.
And so the reason that we have to be scaling our efforts with critical partners, quite frankly, is because we need a constellation of organizations and groups that can meet people where they are. And so we're happy of the almost 10 years that we've been in partnership and together with you guys since 2016. We're looking for 10 years and beyond, and we're going to keep that partnership growing because we know that there's a great need out there and there's so much more to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I said with Brian, I said CareFirst. When I think CareFirst, think about community. You guys, CareFirst is everywhere, but you guys reach across the shore.
Yeah.
It's all one.
Right.
And we're all together.
Yeah.
You're in DC, you're in Northern Virginia, but it's like you're all one being together. That's what I really like about CareFirst, it's community. And you're in the homes, you're helping out. And that's what's beautiful about it. And that's what's very exciting to sit with you, to talk with you about that today, and just mental health awareness and things of that nature. You know, Beth Ann and I were very excited about this interview.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, we have a saying, and our CEO says this all the time, that people, as they move through time and circumstance, they're different. And so where you are today may not be where you're going to be in 6 months, may not be where you're going to be in a year. And so we need to be able to have our efforts meet people where they are. And so to your point about being throughout our coverage region, we're serious about it. And we know that there's a need out here on the shore. There's a need in our other areas. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is through working with critical partners like you guys who are on the ground, who have the expertise, who have the connectivity and are trusted in communities. That's the way we're gonna be able to tackle this issue.
And the piece that I love as I'm sitting and listening just to the two of you, I feel like I'm like in a tennis match going back and forth here, is that there's a difference between how we serve in Baltimore versus how we serve in a rural community.
Facts.
And I love the curiosity that CareFirst brings to the table about learning about our community. And you know, we would love to have you and your team continue to be out at our office and really dig in on some of the things that we're doing. One of the areas where we're really working hard and have relied on CareFirst is Center for Learning and trainings and educating and getting into the workplace and helping the people that are also on the front line, because that's the other part of it. So your sponsorship is also going to help us bring a community talk up to our first responder community.
That's great.
To be able to get these mental health services into the first responders, where that's also not necessarily something that's been in place all along. And CareFirst comes right alongside us because you're recognizing that rural communities are different, that, you know, communities are different than they were. You're so right. 10 years ago, it looked much different.
That's right.
And pivoting is the word that comes to mind as I think about what we're doing together.
And so much, I think you touched on this point. It's not assuming going in that we've got the answers.
Right.
And quite honestly, there's a freeing and we don't have to have the answers. We're not, we shouldn't be expected to have the answers. We really want to go into community, be able to learn from folks who are doing the work and engaged in the work, and to have folks collaborate and help us figure out where we should be leaning in and where our resources are going to be best effective.
Yeah. Yeah, because the beauty of that kind of a model is that we can create something in sort of a pilot project and be able to then share it out to the larger community, beyond the Eastern Shore. I know that there is like the over here and over there. It's really only a 45-minute bridge. It's not, it's not, we're not that far away. And the reality is that we can also help break down the stigma, not only about mental health, but also about how we can show up in the community. And especially when we are looking at things like what you're talking about, those are those critical moments. Not only is it a critical moment for us in terms of how we are serving people, it's also a critical moment in how we're showing up in the community.
Absolutely. And I think, another thing that I'm fond of is this notion of trying some things, right? That not everything that we do is going to necessarily work out 100%. There are going to be things that we learn from it.
Right.
And so we don't have to be afraid to say, you know what, we're going to try some things. We're going to try some things that are new, that may be unconventional, that may not be the traditional things that we would do. But let's just see how people respond and if there's something there. And there may be a piece of that we learn from that then goes on and turns into something else. But we can't be afraid or think we've got to have everything buttoned up or we got to have all the 100% of the data before we lean in and try some things that are new and sometimes uncomfortable.
And I will say from our standpoint that the philanthropy that you engage in with our agency, that is the most critical lens to have, because there are not dollars that are flowing for innovative and new programs. And sometimes people want to see results. And that exact mentality of let's try something new, because my whole philosophy, and I say this, Aaron knows this, nothing changes if nothing changes.
That's right.
If we continue to do the same thing, we are going to get the same results. And so the innovation to be able to say, we'd like to try this, and having a community partner who philanthropically sits alongside of us and says, give it a go, and allows us to sort of work out the kinks, that becomes super critical as we are building new programs to reach into new areas.
Well, look, we're in this together.
Yes, we are.
We're going to be there. We're right there with you, and we enjoy
fantastic.
the work that we're doing, and we're having impact, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out your day.
Of course.
It's MACO. It's beautiful outside. Ocean City, where else where you want to be. But thank you so much. Super Bowl Sunday, you started off the day.
And thank you. Honestly, you've been on a tour de force. Interviewing a lot of folks, bringing a lot of good information, and so appreciate the work that you're doing. It's a lot of work and a lot of good information you're bringing to people, so appreciate you.
I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, folks. We'll be right back.
You or someone you love in need of mental health support? For All Seasons is now offering same-day therapy appointments with no wait list. Through the For All Seasons Open Access program, you can walk in for mental health services and begin therapy in the same visit. For All Seasons accepts all insurances and provides financial assistance if you need it. For therapy, psychiatry, or victim support, we have appointments available today. Call For All Seasons 410-822-1018.
And folks, we are live here at MACO 2024, and we're having a great time. I said it's Super Bowl Sunday down here at MACO. We are at the Celebrity Row Day, Celebrity Row. Beth Ann, who do we have to level?
We're so excited to have Lierman with us, Comptroller of the State of Maryland.
First, let me start by saying thank you for the important work that you do, and Aaron, thank you for providing so much substantive reporting about what we're doing and directly for so many of the organizations and the government officials. So thank you. Everywhere I go now, when I'm touring around the state and meeting with small businesses and nonprofits, we almost always stop to meet with a government agency or nonprofit doing work in the mental health space. And we do that because we know just how hard that work is, and we want to uplift them and make sure that they know we can be a resource.
Sure.
But also to highlight the really important connection that exists between having good mental health, being mentally healthy, right, and our workforce. We published the state's first ever State of the Economy report last January, and in it we actually included an appendix that is all devoted to the fact that our economy started becoming more sluggish in 2017, which is right around the time of some of the opioid epidemic, but also because we have seen an increase in rates of depression, mental health struggles. Look, we know that people with aged 18 to 34 have higher rates of self-reported depression. That is when you start working, right? Those years are so formative for setting the baseline of what your earning potential is for the rest of your life. And so if we are not building up our workforce to be healthy and ready to go to work and to be productive and thrive and really be their best selves, we're gonna keep losing out, and just people won't be able to fulfill their true potential.
Absolutely.
So,
You know, one of the things when I hear you talk about the increase in depression and anxiety for our population starting at the age of 18, one of the things we know is that if kids are struggling, we know that most times when someone is diagnosed with a mental health disorder or has the potential to be diagnosed, there's a lag in time when they recognize they need help and when they are actually able to get in for services. And you know, we shared with you that our new program is walk-in services 5 days a week, no wait list, access to therapist and psychiatry team. And that really speaks to that piece that you were just talking about, because if someone calls and says, I need help, and we say, we're sorry, we can't get you in for 18 months, the chances are it's going to be 10 years before they're really feeling mentally well.
Right. And we lose so much money because of that. Lost productivity as a result of anxiety and depression costs the global economy about $1 trillion each. It costs about $1 trillion each year. So these are real numbers. And you're right to highlight the need for that immediate access. You know, we visited with you, of course, and you really have a best practice. We were in Howard County not too long ago, and their grassroots crisis intervention model is similar. Like, they just built out, recognizing that need for the immediate care, just built out their space with state support to be able to do that too. So that's the other thing, is it has to be available where you are. Right. So there's not sort of a one and done solution. We have to have it in every space of the state.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You go.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and knowing that sometimes we have to be innovative in how we're delivering. So not only do we have to have it in the four walls of our office, but telehealth becomes really important. And you've been in our communities where we have really rural communities. I mean, there's 500 miles of road in one of our communities. And so we know that everybody can't get to us. So being able to get services, and we talked with you know, about the infrastructure in terms of getting Wi-Fi across the state of Maryland and all of those pieces. It's like,
making sure you
and all of that, again, comes back down to impacting that bottom line.
Totally. Yep.
A little switch on topic real quick. Board of Public Works. What's the latest about that? What's going on? I know we're talking about that, but Board of Public Works.
So for folks who don't know, the Board of Public Works is the 3-person body. It's the governor, the treasurer, and me. And we are sort of an executive council that functions at overseeing our state's procurement, right? So all our tax dollars, they go to, you know, whether it's building bridges and roads or laying internet and fiber or money to nonprofits for capital grants, any contract over $200,000 comes to the Board of Public Works. And even a few that are under $200,000, I have realized as I've been there for 18 months. But look, you know, we are very focused on making sure that we use the power of procurement to enhance the diversity and the resiliency of our state's economy, because that will help us grow over the long term, our economy, and ensure that we're getting best value for our dollars. So one of the things that we're very focused on our MBE goals, our Minority Business Enterprise goals. Another thing I'm really focused on is transparency. So I worked with the Legislative Black Caucus last session to introduce legislation to create the first ever BPW dashboard. So right now, if you want to know, you know, how many contracts were approved by X or Y agency over the last year, you'd have to open up every single PDF and add them up. Crazy. So we passed that legislation. We're hoping to onboard some resources to build out a dashboard so you can actually see where the money is going and slice up the pie different ways and do your research on it. Then we have the data more easily as well, which otherwise it's tough to quantify. And so that was a really important effort that we're doing. And, you know, BPWs, we've had to make some tough decisions this past year. In July, we had to cut some money from the budget to make room for the Child Care Scholarship Program and Medicaid. But those are important investments. I mean, they are building our, you know, Medicaid, like, people are not healthy.
Correct.
They cannot come to work.
Right.
If you do not have child care, you cannot go to work, right? So these are really They're not costs, they are investments.
Right.
That's why Beth Ann said you are the CFO. So.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
But thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time today.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Always great to be here.
Always
Thank
great to.
you.
Are you going to Chicago also?
I will be in Chicago.
All
I'll
right.
be wearing blue all week until I think Thursday we're wearing white suits, right?
There you go.
It's our
Oh,
time-
this is a little sneak
It's
preview.
our
That
time
memo.
to crack that, to break, to smash
Yes.
that final glass ceiling in American politics.
Well, thank you
Fantastic.
so much for your time.
Fantastic.
Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. Great to be here.
Great
Thank you
to
both.
be. Thanks.
You or someone you love in need of mental health support? For All Seasons is now offering same-day therapy appointments with no wait list. Through the For All Seasons Open Access program, you can walk in for mental health services and begin therapy in the same visit. For All Seasons accepts all insurances and provides financial assistance if you need it. For therapy, psychiatry, or victim support, we have appointments available today. Call For All Seasons 410-822-1018.
And folks, we are having an amazing day at MACO 2024 in Ocean City. I'm thankful to be here with For All Seasons. They've been a great partner in this whole day, being here the whole weekend. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being a part of this.
Absolutely.
So I have an old friend of the podcast. So when he first started on NoPixAfterDark podcast, he was the mayor of Salisbury
That's right.
back in the day. So we go way back.
Way back.
We go way back.
Distant memories.
Distant memories. Distant cousins, you know how
That's
that
right.
goes. We have Secretary Jake Day, Department of Housing and Community Development. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Hey, we're here.
It's good to be in Ocean City, isn't it?
It
Good
is
to be
a-
on the Eastern Shore.
On the Eastern Shore, yes.
Yes.
You were always a proud person. Eastern Shore all the way.
Look, I got the Eastern Shore tattooed on me. It's in my blood.
You didn't have a
literally,
long
and
drive. You
figuratively.
didn't have to be in the car for a long time.
Shortest commute of the month for me.
So we want to thank you for hanging out with us today
Yeah.
and talk about a very near and dear topic of mental health. And I'm going to let Beth Ann take it from there. Go ahead.
Yeah, we are just so grateful to be here with you. And really, when we think about housing and community development, we think about, if you care about the homeless community, if you care about affordable housing, if you care about economic development, you really care about mental health. And really would just love to talk with you a little bit about how the Department of Community Development is showing up differently since you've come into office, and really with this administration to be able to address some of these really difficult but critical needs.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, and thank you for all you do and your organization does for Marylanders. I think we don't have the luxury of being siloed when it comes to responding to mental health. I often hear the phrase "housing is healthcare," but I want you to know we're more than just housing.
Right.
There's so much that we do that is designed to support the community objectives. The community development objectives in every part of this state, in all 24 jurisdictions. And so we have some tools, one of which we were just talking
Yep,
about.
we were
Community
talking
Investment
about
Tax
those
Credit,
tax credits
which is
that are-
one of the ways in
Yeah.
which we can support nonprofit organizations
Yeah.
that are doing amazing work out in our communities.
Yeah.
But I do want to say something else. I want to say this. It's our fundamental obligation as leaders to recognize where the challenge is and to do our part, whatever that is. When I was a mayor, there is no mental health department in city governments.
Right.
There is no Department of Health in
Yeah.
municipal governments.
Right.
But we recognize that we had to be leaders because we had at our disposal, for example, the first line of defense, the first line service providers in police officers, in paramedics, emergency medical technicians, and firefighters that engage directly with people in their worst moment.
Right.
In their moments of crisis, or their families facing a moment of crisis. And if we didn't take mental health seriously, not only for them, but also for the community, if we didn't take that seriously, then we were only part of the problem.
Right.
We were simply deflecting
Yeah.
and pushing that problem into somebody else's hands. And we were active contributors to the problem by not training our frontline supervisors or frontline workers
Yeah.
to be directly engaged in making things better for
Right.
people in those moments,
Yeah.
and being trained to respond to crisis. So it's a topic that I've been interested in for quite some time.
So you ever have those moments where you're like talking to someone and you can feel like the giddiness in your stomach, like, oh my gosh, he's totally talking my language? Because our agency is doing right now something called Talbot First, and we're infusing mental health services into our first responder community. We're doing those trauma debriefings with our firefighters, the police officers, the sheriff's department, within all of the sectors, 911 dispatchers and EMS, so that we can do exactly what you're talking about. Because, the times of like just go home and push it down and push it down and push it down, they're gone. And not only is it something that resonates with us in terms of that first responder community, it's also now we're working directly with our veterans community, working with our homeless community, working with our schools, because I so appreciate when you talk about you do so much more than housing, because the community development piece of it, I think sometimes gets lost because people hear housing, and that community development piece and the partnership, it can't be like substance abuse over here and mental health sits over here and housing sits over here and the community sits over here. It really is, we were saying in one of our earlier podcasts, it's like a blanket of support that we all need to provide together.
And what we try to recognize in our work is that we have to build whole communities, complete communities that have all the services that help people reach their full potential. There are so many barriers to that.
Yes.
A lot of them are economic. You pointed to homelessness, and that's an area of interest for me and for our agency. We recently created the Division of Homeless Solutions with an Assistant Secretary of Homeless Solutions, elevating that to a really core part of our agency.
Right.
Because fundamentally, everything else we talk about, housing shortages, and the affordability crisis, and the reason people leave our state, and the economic competitiveness effects of all of that, the end result of all of those things is someone being unsheltered.
Correct.
When it all fails, when those systems fail, somebody doesn't have a roof over their head. And I often talk about homelessness as an economic condition, because at the end of the day, whatever got them there, it's an economic question of, could I pay that bill that month?
Right.
No. And so I didn't. And so I put food in my kids' bellies. I took the medicine I had to take, and I couldn't pay rent.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that it is often deep crisis that gets people to that place. It is substance abuse disorder. It is mental health challenges. And some of those things cause a spiraling effect and are connected. And let me tell you something, they only get worse when people are unhoused.
Absolutely.
So we are absolutely laser focused on ensuring that we are a state that is marching towards solving homelessness, solving unsheltered homelessness for our veteran populations, for persons with disabilities, for our senior population, all of whom are extra vulnerable to mental health stressors.
And the thing that's really beautiful about you sort of framing that is that our agency serves regardless of someone's ability to pay, because on the other end of that, when you are someone who is struggling to pay those bills and you've got to choose between keeping the lights on, putting dinner on the table, or your mental health service, the whole premise for why we serve without regard to one's ability to pay is that we're able to say, not only do we not have a wait list, not only have we changed the way that we do services, so you can walk into our office 5 days a week, receive services in the moment. It's telehealth for the entire state, so we're serving all 24 jurisdictions. We also then have the ability to say, and oh, by the way, if you can't afford your copay, we are able to cover that copay, because we recognize how that one shift can be so incredibly impactful in a family's life.
The housing world has a lot to learn from you. The idea of not having a wait list is amazing. Unfortunately, the voucher side of our world, the federal government hasn't added the number of to the number of vouchers in a very long time. There's a lot of people waiting for housing. We have an extraordinary shortage in this country, so we got a long way to go to solve it, and it's a slow process, particularly when you're talking about building things. It's a slow process. But I do want to pick up on something you said about telehealth. We all learned since March 2020 how important telehealth is to providing those basic fundamental services to every Marylander, right?
Everyone.
All over the world. Broadband is such a key part of that, and is an often forgotten part of our agency. We have the Office of Statewide Broadband, and it is our mandate that by 2030, 100% of Maryland locations have high-speed broadband service to that location. That means every house, every business, every chicken house, every farmhouse, every outhouse, all of them. Because sometimes you got to bring your phone in the outhouse, right? I think it is so important that we remember why we did that. It's not just about economic competitiveness. It's because during COVID, we know that there were families that were sitting in a parking lot outside of McDonald's
Absolutely.
trying to pick up the Wi-Fi
Yep.
just to do homework.
We had a
just for
school
that
bus
kid to do
in one of our shopping areas. They put Wi-Fi on the school bus. And as you're talking about getting all of the Wi-Fi into different areas, I think about the programs that we provide on Hooper's Island, where we are working with our migrant workers who are coming in and working in the crab picking houses, and we have to send people down to the island. We're working with the local fire department. We don't have a structural office there, but there's 250 T-visa migrant workers who are coming in. We are all enjoying crab cakes all season long.
Thanks.
And the reality, right? And the reality is that these men and women are coming with mental health struggles. They're coming with sexual assault struggles. They're coming with intergenerational trauma. And so the conduit to being able to serve from all 5 of our locations versus only being able to get down there in person, that would be a game changer for these women, because they're seeking services and they're a part of our community. Because that's the other piece of it. You know, mental health just isn't, if you live here full time. Like, I'm in Ocean City right now. If I have a mental health crisis, I'm part of this community, and I need to know that no matter where I am, there are resources and services, and that we are working together to make a pathway for success and hope.
There ought to be a more level playing field across all 24 jurisdictions. I hear you.
100%.
I'm reminded when you talked about Hooper's Island. I'm reminded that we recently announced that we're providing high-speed broadband to Smith Island. One of the most remote jurisdictions in the state. And not the last time I visited there, but the first time I visited there in this job, I heard stories. I heard stories that weren't just about I want to do my job, which I otherwise have to be, in downtown Baltimore to do, and I want to live on Smith Island. No, it was we have health emergencies here too. It was, we need to call the doctor too. I need to talk to my therapist too. And I ought to be able to do it even when I have chosen to live here or when I was raised here. And for an adolescent growing up on Smith Island, to have no access to mental health services because of that infrastructure limitation is unacceptable.
Yeah. I think about even the rural community as a whole. You think about places like Caroline County where there's 500 miles of road, and there's no way that we can put enough infrastructure in place in terms of a physical office to reach all of those nooks and crannies. And I also think about, when we talk about housing and community development, you think about the older generation. Somebody might not be mobile, somebody might not be able to drive anymore, but their life is just as valuable. And the hope that we can instill in them in services and really saying, we don't just care about you until you hit age 65. We care about you. Our office is what I call a womb-to-tomb provider. We've served the pregnant mom to the 96-year-old man. And so I also think about how mental health can show up and how we can really be saying, hey, Department of Housing and Community Development has this initiative going on, and here's one of the benefits.
I hope one takeaway from this conversation is that, when we turn this type of ethic into program, we're living out the, Governor Moore said it, the Moore-Miller administration value of that we will leave no one behind.
Right, yeah.
It takes deliberate programmatic action to deliver on that ethic, but it's true and it's in our heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I really can sort of just like in a bubble say that the innovation and the pivoting and knowing that our communities are shifting and our job is to shift along with them, that nothing changes if nothing changes. We have to be innovative about the way that we are reaching people, because people's mental health and the housing needs and communities' needs, they're rising. And if we just continue to do the same thing that we've always done, nothing's going to change, and we're not going to be able to really go in and do the work that needs to be done to say, I see you, I value you, and I care about you. That's, that help, hope, and healing that we want people to feel and know that they're a really integral part of the community, no matter where they live, no matter what language they speak, no matter what their pocketbook has. All of those things just sort of came to mind as you were talking about sort of this big picture.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well, thank you for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully, have you gone down to visit yet?
I haven't yet.
We would love for you to come to the
Make it
office
happen.
Need to make it happen.
and get a view. And
I will.
Yeah.
I've now said it, in a recorded
And I'll
environment,
tell you,
so it's
one
got
of
to
the-
happen.
So here's been the thing that we've been talking about is we have great ice cream shops on the Eastern Shore, and so what
That
we've been
there.
enticing people with is like we could do an ice cream tour
go
and
now.
talk about mental health.
Let's
Jake
go
and
now.
we're out.
I'm convinced.
Cancel his meetings.
I'm convinced.
this ice cream. Keep on hearing about this ice
Telling
cream.
you,
Keep
it's
on hearing
so
about this ice
good,
cream.
so good.
Well, thank you, Secretary, for
Thank
hanging
you.
out with
Thank
us.
you so much.
Thank you for having me. I
Thanks.
appreciate it. Great
Thank you.
conversation.